Hi, we're live. We're back. Hello.
We're right back, and now, thankfully, in the studio, so you guys don't have to hear all that echoey sound and all that stuff that we had yesterday.
That's right. Yeah, we could still. It was still great. It was so good to have you, and you are a trooper because you just hopped off of a really intense live, and here you are, like what 5 minutes to spare, and yeah, it's so good to see you again. And I, I think that we kind of led up to maybe what we're talking about today, which is holding Scientologists, ex-Scientologists, ex-executives, that's a mouthful, ex-executives, accountable. And
Mhm.
first of all, I just want to ask you um, if you had any dealings with Mike Rinder while you were in the Sea Org, face to face or through down the lines. What if any association do you have with him?
So I never had any direct dealings with Mike Rinder when I was in the Sea Org. I had a lot of dealings with his proteges at the Office of Special Affairs at Flag. But I only saw Mike Rinder in a podium because he would do like speeches to us. Sometimes he would be tapped to come in and do graduation speech or whatever. And so I definitely listened to a lot of his briefings, and he was always the one that was talking about like psychiatry. We need to abolish them, and we're going to really win a war against psychiatry, and we're going to really help kids, not be drugged, because that's really what the pitch was to us. Psychiatry is bad because they're drugging kids and they're doing horrible things to kids. I mean, that was one of their big cries. And what type of, you know, false sense of like, yeah, we really care about the world. We really care about kids because they're being abused over there. Look over there. Don't look over here. Just look over there.
Right. Hmm.
But directly with him, no.
Right. So when you saw him, like, what did you think? Like, was he? I mean, he was on a big podium, right? Was he like? I know did people salute him? I mean, what? Like, he had a lot of admiration and power.
Well, all of these executives were Mr. Rinder to us lowly peons. You couldn't address them with, oh, look, there's Mike walking over
Right.
there. And as you
Hmm.
can all see in my thumbnail, they were dressed in these fake military uniforms. That is what was used to purport themselves as being very important. Because again, none of the people that wore the fake military uniform breaking news had a shred of actual military valor. And that's what we always talk about. Just having to apologize for the actual complete and utter joke played on actual people that do a job that is very hard, that is unthinkable, where your life is put at risk, might not be the perfect way to deal with things, the army and all of that. But I do think
Right.
that there are people that have some integrity and are doing that job in whatever capacity they can under the conditions that they're in. But in Scientology, all the people that work those uniforms were just complete cons. And they were just
Yeah.
using that uniform to impress our parents. I mean, they were the ones that were very impressed. We saw it, and I mean, you again, it's like it's a uniform that by design is supposed to exude a lot of, prestige and a lot of power and a lot of importance. And that's where it's a double-edged sword for them because they wore the uniform. They were told that they were very important. They pitched themselves as very important and know it alls. And now I think that, they really should be second guessing their fashion choices they made for decades wearing a fake uniform that was a role play to hide who they
Hmm.
actually were.
Yeah. Cosplay. Hmm. No. Like, what did you know? I mean, you called him Mr. Rinder. No, obviously you didn't have face to face interactions with him, but what was his title? Like, what did you know him as? Did you know him as the head of OSA? Did you know, like, what was his position as far as you were concerned? If someone had asked you back
Watchdog
then.
Watchdog Committee Osa was the title that I remember for him. He was WDC
Watchdog.
Osa, which is the highest, most superior title or position that you can hold inside of there outside of being an RTC representative, because RTC is the ones that do everything
Right.
for L. Ron Hubbard and have anything to do with the trademarks. So RTC was always senior,
Hmm.
and we always knew that. But the people that worked at the Watchdog Committee, you know, funny how they called us fleece and they were dogs, calling themselves dogs. Watchdog Committee.
That's a
So
point there. Yeah. Now, were they higher than the messengers, or the messengers were done because LROH was gone?
So the
They're still messengers.
messengers, it was weird, okay, because there was this, and I don't know if the WDC people were considering themselves messengers. Let me think. I don't think so, because like when Biddy Miscavige was WDC FSO, she was higher than all the messengers there
Mhm.
at the hotel at Flag. So no, I would say they were higher. They were, because I think they were part of CMO Int. So they were
Mhm.
like the international messengers, so that they had everything is always by status and ranks. So yeah, I mean
Right.
WDC is pretty much as far high as you could possibly get in the
And
criminal scheme.
what are they what are they watching right, in the criminal, right. What are they watching over? Are they watching inward or outward? Because I know that OSA is more of an external thing, right? They gather intelligence and they handle issues like enemies. So the watchdog thing, what are they? I don't want to get too in the weeds, but I'm just trying to get an idea of the magnitude of this position and the reach of it.
Well, the magnitude is the highest of the highest rank and highest order, right? So there is no
Mhm.
one senior than that person, meaning that they have all the power. And kind of something we touched upon yesterday is, as in any intelligence operation, the ones at the highest are the ones that have the most access to sensitive information, because that's really what you're being entrusted with, right? Like, okay, you can be OSA because you're really trustworthy and you're really going to stay in this hotel forever. And then we can trust you with everything. So
Right.
that is what the problem is, that they got trusted with everything. And you were asking about whether it's internal or external facing. And the truth is, Marilyn, this organization runs from Thursday to Thursday. Every week, everything is get analyzed and inspected and checked. So if things happen outside of the organization that were a big, huge threat, that week, everything gets
Right.
crisis managed, everything
Right.
gets figured out, everything gets how we're going to obstruct justice, how are we going to deal with this. Everything is on a week to week basis with them. They cannot think
Mhm.
outside of a week to week basis. So if the problem was like, like we said, let's say, Marissa's little
Yep.
brother or
Yep.
cousin,
Nephew.
that would
Yeah.
literally burn alive in this fire. Okay, well, that week, that information would have had to float up the ranks all the way up to the highest, because that week externally something was creating a
Right.
problem.
Right.
So now let's take a look at, Miriam. The week that Miriam's dad self-admitted to be doing essay on her, that week Miriam and the dad became the thing to be really doing a lot about. And then once you became part of the problem, you were always being, now you're always under watch, so-called watch. They're always looking after you. They're crisis managing the situation until they deemed that, okay, cannot be a problem for us anymore. So it's a full-blown crisis management machine. And that's what's so egregious about it, because to crisis management, to be able to crisis manage, it requires you to have full access to all the info. And since in Scientology, they have no boundaries, that info included everything and anything. In fact, they had the info before they would even tell the lawyers. Like, their own lawyers are all clueless. Their own lawyers make all manner of statements that are not based in reality whatsoever. They're false statements that they should really be losing their licenses over, because yes, as a lawyer, you can make a lot of creative arguments about this and that, but you cannot say things that are completely false. And these lawyers wouldn't know if they're saying something false or not, because they've never been. They only get told by these executives what happened. And since the executives, so-called executives, are the ones paying the bill, the lawyers are actually their mouthpieces, really. They're just acting as mouthpieces. They're not acting as, oh, let's really consult with you how to keep the law applied, right? Like, that's why we go to all these lawyers, because, they go through all this training, all these years to really figure out how the law is supposed to be applied. It's supposed to be like this, that, have a lot of nuance and all manner of things. So they get paid all this money to consult on the client not running a lawless operation. And in our case, all we saw, and from firsthand experience, was that the law was not applied, that they were playing an infantile cosplay game that a convicted felon pitched to them. They all got off on it. They all loved it so much, being abused, being dehumanized. They all signed up for it and paid. And then in the aftermath of it all, they don't want to reconcile with those facts, because they rather pitch themselves as the victim heroes that they're not, since they've left all the kids behind exposed to everything we've been talking ad nauseum in our channels, and second, third generations that, again, have had no advocacy, had been literally thrown under the bus by the corporate media, who has allowed these executives to launder their image at the expense of the facts. They imagine that if Ghislaine Maxwell have had a full-blown image laundering service, tapping all the major newspapers that have covered Scientology and given her a platform to blame it all on Jeffrey. It's like, the fact is, you were there for how many decades doing exactly what? And we see how the law works, Marilyn. Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. And the reason that I think they're so applicable is because Jody Hildebrandt is what a Scientology person's supposed to be: therapy and religious. Those two things combined is what every Scientology person is going to these hotels for, right? Because we always keep hearing, what Scientology? Oh, it's a therapy. It's a therapy. Okay, so what was the therapy? Oh, the therapy was abuse. Oh, you were subjecting to this type of abuse and bondage to how many kids? Got it. That's called aggregated child abuse. And it doesn't have another name. It's as generic as that, believe it or not. It's just that, and it's like, the court doesn't give an F what you were calling the belief. Nobody's going to sit there and really take notes. Oh, so you really did think this. And you really did. What happened? What took place inside of the hotel? And as long as Mike Rinder is, yes, the WDC, knows a lot, but you know what? There's a lot of people that know a lot of things right underneath him. All Scientology parents are in that same bucket. Mike Rinder was a parent in there. He left his kids in there. He then went off. He was a deadbeat parent in Scientology, right? He never really had anything to do with those kids, never bonded with them, couldn't have given a shred of an F about them. Then he leaves, has more kids, has underage kids under his eye the whole time, and none of that ever raises a red flag. Like, damn, like, this is how old they were, the kids, when mine were over there in a roach-infested motel. So it's like, when are we going to see a shred of self-awareness and not this, complete and utter BS that, yes, at this time in the year 2024, we are a little bit pissed, given that nothing has changed and is now the year 2024. How has it not changed? And he's not the only one not repudiating what was done to kids, Marilyn. Because again, every parent in Scientology was exposing their kids to this. So this is, our parents have a problem with Mike Rinder. I don't have a problem with Mike Rinder. I don't know who the hell he is. I didn't have at 12 years old the capacity to know who the hell he was. I was being told a lot of stuff. And yes, I was told that I was an adult and fully in on it. But now it's my parents who made the deal with Mike Rinder and Debbie Cook and Angie Blankenship and David Miscavige and Shelley Miscavige and all the other executives that were their buddies. You see, we were 12. The people that did this to us were our parents. Whatever happened to us is something that our parents and those hotel executives need to now go and discuss between themselves as full-grown adults that they all are. You know, like Miriam's dad made a deal with Osa to launder his image and get help and get aided and abetted to leave a country so he couldn't be nabbed by the police. Who helped that father, right? So it goes back to that point. It's like Scientology parents and the executives all need to have conversations between themselves. It's not our job to figure it out for them. They have to figure it out for themselves, the grown adults that they've always been.
Yeah, and there was a slush fund that Matt Pesh talked about that was set in place by OSA, Office of Special Affairs, as if it's not made up of people. You know, it's just this entity, Office of Special Affairs, which Mike Rinder was the head of. So isn't there that saying, there's a saying, the buck stops here, but there's also always that deflection, always that disassociation, no self-awareness, like you said.
Well, and it's like, it's how people work when they're in a conspiracy. They're all aiding and abetting the conspiracy. They're all pushing it forward. In what world can you really, with a straight face, pitch that you have a slush fund to move minors across state lines and across international waters? But yeah, nothing can be done about anything, Marilyn. It's all we ever get told. Nothing can be done about it. I mean, completely contrary to Mike Rinder's blog, something can be done about it. What? What can be done about it? What can be done about it if you're not even disgusted with yourself for what you did and what you normalize at an industrial size scale? What can be done about it if the people that leave, imagine Ruby Franke wouldn't have been caught and then just left Jody Hildebrandt and just talked about, oh, Jody did really crazy things, you guys. Oh, yes, newspaper, you want to talk to me about the time that Jody did something? I would love to tell you about that. Again, it's like when you're in a conspiracy, you're in a conspiracy, you're in on it. It went full circle. Debbie Cook got the report that a minor had been essayed in her hotel. Then Debbie Cook called Matt Pesh. We need to tap the slush fund to move this minor. Because Debbie Cook also got a call from OSA, crisis management operation that they were. Oh, yes, we really need to move this minor. We just checked with an attorney in our network that pitched it. I mean, they were calling attorneys. Believe you me, they have them all on speed dial. They're paying top retainers to have attorneys on speed dial for any type of question they could possibly ever literally have. And yet, in what world do we only have always the wrong decision and choice was made? Do not involve the authorities. Do not involve the FBI. Do not tell the parent that their kid was just essayed. Do tell the kid that it was all his fault. Why is that the only thing that ever took place inside of that hotel? Because that was systemic across the board. There was no other way to do it. There was never a time where they went, oh my God, a felony was committed in our hotel. Let's really call up the Clearwater Police Department. Let's really get the authorities involved so that this person that just violated the law inside of the United States doesn't operate above the law. That's the platitude we always get. Oh, no one's above the law. Where is this law that is supposed to be not no one ever above it, because they're all above it inside the hotel.
Hmm. So let me get this right. So say, Debbie Cook knew about a child SA situation, crime, right? Let's call it what it is, and abuse and assault in the hotels, right? She would call Osa or
So, well, first of all,
Mike
actually,
Pesh.
Debbie Cook would not, let's see how much did Debbie Cook know. She was provided, including but not limited to, video recordings of sessions where this was fully admitted. So they had video recording of the admissions to the felony. Then they had access to all the files, worksheets, meaning transcribed contemporaneous notes that were taken at the time where the felony was being admitted to in full. Then they would type it all up in a summary on this date, time, place, form, and event. All of it had to be provided and typed and look real fancy and professional. And then that's what would be to Debbie Cook. Oh, look, sir, here's the video. Here's the knowledge reports. Here's the ethics file. Here's the PC file. Here, look, we just caught this. And then Debbie Cook would go, oh my God, let me look at this. Let me read this. Let me become fully implicated in the felony. Let me be fully in the know. And then at that point, she would be like, yeah, getting on the phone with Osa and Matt Pesh and like 5 people probably right there, all working in a committee to really solve the flap. And it's like, again, it's like they were paying to be part of this criminal racketeering scheme. They have no plausible deniability. Everything was shown to them. Like in the Catholic Church, they weren't interrogating, they weren't getting video recording admissions of all these priests doing a lot of stuff, but we don't know, right? Like they kept very dubious paperwork on purpose. So they couldn't ever really get nabbed for this, right? In the case of Scientology, they kept everything at a place where it leaves them with I didn't know, I had no idea. No, you can't even claim that. You had an idea, you had been told, you had watched the video, you had read the worksheets, you had seen the ethics report. Everybody was writing what in the hell was going on to the file of the child that was being essayed or whatever. The handlings were put in writing. Everything was typed. And all of that, again, it's like very similar to the Nazis killing the Jews, right? All the documentation was being done. And then because they were doing it very documented, then it wasn't a crime. Like, oh, yeah, that's right. It says in the law that we're supposed to, put all these Jews in this gas chamber. Okay, we've got all the names. Here's the paperwork. We filed the paperwork. We press the button. Now they're dead. Now the next. Okay, let's go. Here's the paperwork. We do it all full knowing. That's what the problem is, Marilyn, with them today. They are all full knowing. This isn't the Boy Scouts where people were doing, little knots and crazy things over here, and then they got infiltrated by a bunch of people that did all this other gross things. Like, there is no plausible deniability. Scientology is the problem. The fact that Scientology was role played according to whatever L. Ron Hubbard, convicted felon, indicted that he was, put on a piece of paper, and then that's all it took for everyone to blindly follow that with no critical thinking skills, with no common sense, with being okay with having everything be the way it was. And with still in this year 2024, not having a shred of repudiation over that.
So now that they've been out for 15, 20 years, right? Supposedly they said they've told the FBI everything. They have a regular, briefing, whatever, relationship with them. They've told them everything. If they've told them everything, why is this still going on? Why hasn't there been a raid? Why, I know I'm just saying this kind of like rhetorically because I don't think they have told them everything. I doubt it.
And again, I mean, who knows? Who knows,
back?
Marilyn? I mean, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt to this degree. The FBI is being sued for bungling every last shred of child trafficking investigation that has ever been put on the public record, of which there's been minimum amounts, mind you, right? Because we know this crime is going on 24/7, 365 at an industrial size scale in a country that's supposed to be all about the laws of the whatevers, right? We know that child trafficking is rampant everywhere. But, if Jeffrey and Jelaine got away with doing this with not underage minors under the age of 12, with minors in sort of those teenage years, and at a scale where you cannot even compare it. I mean, yes, it's horrific that over 200 girls ended up somehow getting ensnared in that network. Well, this is not 200 kids that were ensnared in Scientology bondage sessions. There is no situation. We were all subjected to this. All minors, all parents who had kids did the same thing that Mike Rinder did. Oh, let's put him in the Sea Org. Let's put him to get audited. Let's put him. We really want the best for our kids, because L. Ron Hubbard, a convicted felon, did pitch a bunch of lies, and then we're all about it. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what's being questioned. Why? Why did you follow that blindly, and what result did that have on kids? Because that's what we need to understand. Why? And if the FBI knows all about it, then, it fortifies their pattern of why they're being sued right now for the Epstein victim situation. Because it just actually now shows us that there's not just this. It wasn't just us. It's a pattern of the FBI not doing their job. It's a pattern of the FBI recruiting the most gullible, idiotic, stupid investigators that have no idea how to pull a string, is what it's called. Marilyn, like, I've been an investigator since I was 12. Step one, what doesn't make sense about this situation?
Right.
That's what you have. That's called a string in an investigation in Scientology. What doesn't make sense about this? Okay, then pull the string and find out why it doesn't make sense. And you're supposed to keep pulling and pulling and pulling until you get to the Sherman tank, they say. At the bottom of all that stuff that doesn't make sense, there's a Sherman tank. Well, the Sherman tank is that all underage kids were thrown in those hotels by their parents, signed full parental consent to anyone to have their way with them, and everything went because they were told that they were adults. Well, you know what? None of that makes a shred of sense now. And in this year 2024, when nothing has stopped, nothing. There's not a shred of guardrails that has been put in place because people have been whistleblowing about what? Kids are still being, like what we said yesterday, sent to ethics, sent to get sec checked, sent to go do courses. In my chat earlier, somebody was saying, like, kids were seen going into the Chicago org. You see, and it's like what's so important about all these audits that are being done by all of these people in our community that are seeing the red flags. Imagine they have no skin in the game for themselves. They have no kids. They weren't mothers or parents that had kids, or there is no Scientology parent doing a shred of heavy lifting. They're just there playing victim. That's all they ever want to play now. In the aftermath of everything, oh, I was a victim. Well, that's why I'm showing them Jody, Hildebrand, and Ruby Franke. Because if Ruby Franke is facing 60 years in jail, even though she made a plea deal, even though she went and showed what accountability sounds like. I mean, thank God that the Utah court allowed that court proceeding to be televised, so we could all see what someone that subjects their underage kids to unthinkable, sadistic abuse, the same things that Ruby and Jody were doing to kids was being done over here to the cadets. Laura has been on the record talking about that. Jenna's been on the record talking about that. I've posted numerous photographic evidence, kids building with rocks, having to do construction work. all cruel, unusual punishments. Like as if I wasn't sent not to sleep on a beanbag for 7 months, but to go birth with a self-admitted pedo as an underage kid. So again, Marilyn, this is all called aggregated child abuse, and it's a felony of the highest order.
And there's no statute of limitations for that. No. And so if you were somebody, I just want to put this question up real quick because I think it is really applicable here. Barbie's World question: can't the adult children prosecute the parents and executives? I mean, it's not up to the parents. It would have to be a DA or it would have to be law enforcement.
That's the point,
You
Marilyn.
could
That's the
sue
point
them.
exactly.
You
I
could
mean,
try to sue them for money, but that's not
no, and I
gonna.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't speak for everyone, but I definitely speak for the people that I've spoken to, and we don't give a shred of an F about a money settlement. We need what is being done to kids to fully stop. That's priority number one, outside of who gets the right paperwork in and wins a case and la la la. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, forgive us for being jaded about how the legal system is the ones that put us in this problem in the first place.
Right.
So for the legal system to be like, oh yeah, you know, we can do this and we can do that. It's like, no, number one, civil attorneys have their own way of wanting to implement the law. And, you know, we see with the FBI, they don't give a shred of an F. And, you know, this is all just continuing to happen. The only choice you have is to raise awareness. That's the only power any of us have. Share the awareness. Ask the tough questions that we're being told not to ask. And how dare we? We're not in court. In court, they can really, you know, prepare which questions you can be asked and not. Over here, we're not. We are in practicing our First Amendment right, which doesn't guarantee us anything. Like us speaking about this, we can raise awareness for the next 100 years. The government and everyone else can play dumb for the next 100 years, no matter how much we are outraged. That's how it works. That's how the real country works, right? Like First Amendment right is not, oh yes, you can release whatever you say is going to be taken seriously. Like you can say whatever, but it's not going to be taken seriously if we don't feel like it. And that's where we are today, you know, with no one taking anything serious and kids still being put in harm's way. And the only ones that are standing up to this are the people in our communities, such as everyone that's hearing this live and never-ins like yourselves and never-ins that are, you know, at La Pubelle every day, whether it rains or not or whatever, they are there. Everyone showing up for those lives to witness the incongruencies, all the things that don't make any sense that are actually being shown to everyone, you know? And it's like, I think people can smell the rat, and it'll be up to whoever it is that does that job to want to do something about it.
Right. Someone asked or said, pause clause. I don't think Mike Rinder turned over all the documents. What do you think about
I mean,
that?
we don't know. We don't know what he did turn in. We don't know what he didn't turn in. We don't know what he did say. We don't know what he didn't say. We only have what his public record statements have been. And it's not for any of us to have to think about whether he's turned something in or not. The point is, as of this year, 2024, everything we discuss has not been even remotely addressed. So that's what's so unthinkable at this point. You know, it's like, ow, you know, and it's good that we see like the Ruby Frankies and the Jody Hildebrands examples, because again, the law is supposed to work the same for everyone. These were Mormon women. And you know what? Saying that they were Mormons didn't change a shred of the facts.
Right.
And in Scientology, we've been told they get an exemption because it's not. It's simply, you know, and something that Miriam also did say, it's beliefs don't commit crimes. People commit crimes. So even if L. Ron Hubbard wrote a bunch of deranged things on a piece of paper, someone had to go and execute said deranged things that were on the piece of paper.
Exactly. Can I put this up? We got super chat. Thank you, Blake. Blake Reed. It makes me so mad that half the people running the Aftermath Foundation would immediately go back to the cult if it was more convenient to them. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know that they would go back to, but I mean, again, it's only what we have right now that we can really react to, I think, in terms of what has become available for everyone to see in their own perspective. So I value all of the perspectives. And I think that, again, it's like everything they did is completely self-inflicted. No one is managing them. And again, it's all they do is play the victim. Oh, look, people are being really mad with us. People are doing this, people are doing that, and project and project and project away. But people are reacting to, and again, this is even YouTube, you have the diversity. People will turn on you. Sure. People will turn on, the people will call you out. People will call you out. No one's here without contract obligation to be like, oh, whatever comes out of your mouth, then we have to take it. Like, you're the only one that counts. It's like, that's again the whole PR machine of build the people that really you can trust. They're the ones that really carry the message, and then all of a sudden everyone's supposed to follow blindly whatever they say. I mean, that's how they controlled all of us as kids inside of there. That's why we were not able to repudiate that behavior back then, but now we are, as a grown adults in adult bodies that we are. I mean, our brains operate very differently now that we are adults.
Right. And it's been said by many of you that what you're seeing now is some of the, leftover, spillover Scientology mentality, and that Scientology has been practiced in some of the handlings of this situation with the Aftermath board, from the Aftermath board, right? I mean, the ethics handling or whatever of Aaron, the botched PR, the kind of top-down mentality, the dead agent packs, which I've already received 2 of them. One was yours and the other was Aaron's. So yeah, I don't understand it because I've never been in. But all I know is that even though I was brought up in a cult, a different type of cult, but I'm telling you, if I saw my people in this community acting like some of my cult leaders, some of my elders, some of the ones that inflicted that shit on me, I would be like, holy crap, I'm out of here. So you guys are seeing that your former abusers and people that were complicit in your abuse and knew about that, a lot of it most likely running the show, and now they're not anymore, and they're pissed and they're having a big tantrum. That's kind of how I see it. And I don't know a lot about the outside world, but I think I know a lot more than they do, especially nonprofits.
Well,
So
that's the thing too, right? Because
unbelievable.
it needs to be addressed. It needs to be handled. And I mean, I don't know that they're using the exact same things that they were doing back in the hotel, but there's, like we say, same shit, different air freshener.
Right.
It's giving the same vibes, the same outcomes, the same control, everything at the expense of integrity, at the expense of advocating for those most vulnerable, which again are the kids. Breaking news for all the people that want to really go save Shelly. The literal Ghislaine Maxwell of David Miscavige does not need saving. She needs to be questioned by the FBI in a serious way. She needs to start confessing to every child she literally knows. Underage kid was put not in the hole, in the RPF, because that's what Shelly Miscavige is personally responsible for. Every underage kid placed in commercial buildings or hotels, so-called RPFs, that were infiltrated with self-admitted pedos. is what Shelly Miscavige is responsible for.
Mhm.
So in what world does she need a shred of saving? In what world are people concerned to do a lot of welfareness checks for her that still the LAPD and all the other ones still refuse to do in any sort of transparent way? And then there's none done on children that are
Yeah.
stuck in these situations. No one goes and checks. Is anyone telling you to do something you don't want to do? Is anyone having you do anything like that? Where's that welfare check for any minors inside of Scientology? Don't count on the Clearwater Police to do any type of welfare check like that, because they will never do it. They don't give an F. And that's not our opinion. That's what's on the public record for the last 74 years of these people existing. Where are the welfare checks for minors being done by anybody? Nowhere, because the parents are compromised and the executives are all about it. So what type of line of defense can a child inside of this disgusting scenario have for themselves? That's what we need to understand for ourselves now, as of this year, 2024. And you, Mike Rinder, that has underage kids, with what type of straight face are you not stopping what you know your daddy figure, L. Ron Hubbard, was pitching to be done at an industrial size scale? In what world would you allow someone to audit your children today? By all means, type that up really quick. Pitch it as a religious experience that they're going to have for themselves. Because that's what I was being told by my parents, full grown adults that they were. I was going to experience for myself inside of that disgusting hotel you were running with the rest of your buddies.
Yeah. We got some comments. It's just so intense. It's all just blows my mind. And I've heard it so many times, but each time I hear it, it's just still a shock. Blake Reed, I love that Serge started holding Shelly accountable, because to some degree she put her own ass in the condition she's living in. She was no saint at all. It sounds like she's not even living in that bad of conditions. She's going to the nail salon, the chiropractor. She seems to be fine, right? And
Yeah, and I'm
yeah,
holding him accountable because I know full well that she had something to do directly with my abuse, right? Like, she
yeah,
knows that I was there with
yeah,
a self-admitted pedo. So she needs to be held accountable, because that's what I can speak to from my own firsthand experience. Debbie
right.
Cook, the same. And
Yeah,
again, it's like, if they're all acting in a conspiracy isn't, oh, this person is bad and that person is good and that person is this and that person is that. That's all PR BS. We don't care about somebody wanting to be good or bad or whatever. We care about the facts. Where
yeah,
was Debbie Cook? What was she doing? Why was there a slush fund, Debbie Cook? Why are you collecting checks to shut the F up today? Who is that benefiting?
right. And again, the spin that I, bought from the Aftermath show was put forth by ex, Scientologists that were executives. Granted, they were abused by David Miscavige, right? And their books are all about the abuse they got, right? Nothing about the children in the hotels being tortured. Nothing about the essay that they and the forced you know, uh, what, abortions that I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but yeah, that they covered up or that they knew about. But when it happened to them, all of a sudden, let's blow out of here and write a book about it and get millions of dollars. And let's make a show saying how heroic Debbie, I almost said Debbie Miscavige, Debbie Cook, and where's Shelley Miscavige? Ron Sr. was so wonderful, you know, what the hell? The facts show, like you say, that's not the truth, and now people are starting to find out. And it's like we're having more and more questions come forward. And we all gave time, attention, money, eyeballs, everything to this cause, which they were leading, and they're not leading it anymore. But now you want answers, right? I
I
mean,
mean,
come
again,
on.
it's in the effort to ensure that no other underage child is being scammed and ensnared.
Exactly.
in a culture where they cannot consent to be a part of whatsoever. Ron Miscavige was a great man. He also did traffic David as a 16-year-old across state lines and handed him to L. Ron Hubbard, hand delivered. And again, where was he? Oh, my son was ruthless. Well, you also couldn't. He was ruthless when he was a kid. I mean, he's on the record saying how he was already like crazy back in the day. David was very intense, was very bully, was very like, combative. And then what did you do? Send him to L. Ron Hubbard? And then you just complained about how he treated you? I mean, literally, you created that problem, Ron Miscavige, that you're somewhere nowhere in this world anymore. You created the problem. The parents created the problem. The parents that followed the convicted, indicted felons' writings and rhetoric, extremist rhetoric AF is what in the hell is called. IRS commissioner, in case none of you at the IRS bothered to read a shred of a thing before you decided to slap something, a 501c3, whatever in the hell you say that is. That now provides you full immunity from the law. It provides you full access to get as many hotels and commercial buildings as you possibly can all across the nation and export that to the rest of the world too, as if America doesn't have that blood on their hands. Exporting that technology, why not? Because don't they really want to help somebody? They're helping themselves to kids inside of those hotels. Breaking news. Stop playing dumb. Because we're talking about a black and white issue matter. Child abuse doesn't have a million shades of gray. Well, this person thinks it's abuse, but this person doesn't think it's abuse. What this person thinks is this person thinks is that. It's like adults need to be in the room and use your critical thinking skills to ensure that kids are not ending up in positions they shouldn't be. We're talking common sense. Not asking for special treatment, not asking for special laws to be erected to do what? I mean, as if the law is supposed to be about common sense, but we're not seeing any of that common sense applied. We're just seeing a bunch of rich people getting away with abusing kids with full impunity while they collect tax credits that the IRS gives them to continue being part of this disgusting culture. I mean, again, this is all state-sponsored, state-sanctioned, state-enabled. So before the government tries to be like, oh, but we had no clue, you had a clue, or get a clue, or get a grip already of your three-letter agencies that are unhinged, including but not limited to the IRS. Top of the food chain, the IRS. The IRS is the one that said this was a very religious thing kids were going to be having for themselves. So the IRS is the most corrupt, disgusting, child trafficking enabling agency out of all. Even the FBI, they can play dumb. Oh, we got a lot of things to do at the FBI. We don't know a shred of a thing. Well, the IRS does know. And the IRS does have auditors. And the IRS does have a way to figure out what in the hell they did. But you know what? Since 1993, they have refused to look into anything because they're just like, yep, this is welcome to America. Help yourself to kids and see if we care. So yeah, welcome to America.
We're witnessing the power surge. Sing it out. Yes, we're witnessing greatness. Witnessing, yes. Wow. I wanted to ask you some things, and there was just to kind of segue into it. There's a comment that I just saw. I believe it's related to what we call the OGs, the ex-gold executives. Amy B said, they made it to the top of those positions for a reason. It takes a special kind of ruthless personality.
And Amy B, unfortunately, again, as an intelligence operation that they were and are, they were all knowing this. Very similar to the military that, puts their cadets through these programs to see, who could be a sniper. Do you have it? Do you have what it takes to be in the CIA? Do you have what it takes to learn this information? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's like, again, look, if this was all an adult hotel, help yourselves. Like who,
Right.
like
They
no
can
one's
play
going to
their
come
own
and
game.
save you. Like you can say it sucked afterwards and no one's going to have to, shed a tear for you. It's like, it's called being an adult. Be an adult already is what we're asking. So you couldn't be more right about it. Like people auditioned for the roles that they were playing inside of that hotel. It was a requirement. They went through lengthy ways to get someone posted as this and posted as that. So again, going back to they know everything. There is no case where they don't know what in the hell is going on. It's not like someone can just be grabbed from the street, nobody knew, and then they became the CO OSA. So every single person there has to prove that they got what it takes.
Right. And you've mentioned that since they've been out in the outside world, that they haven't received any therapy. A lot of you second, third gens, call you gems, have. I just kind of speculated. I thought maybe it's because they were so indoctrinated, ingrained in them that psychologists were bad. But you mentioned something, you mentioned it yesterday and other times as well, about mandated reporters. So are you saying that they went to therapy and spilled something out? And they would have had to get it mandated report, like it would have to be reported, right?
Correct, Marilyn. Because I mean, again, it's like as much as Scientology was pitched as a so-called therapy, you go to an actual therapist and they tell you straight up, like, this is the relationship. These are the boundaries of our relationship. You're not here. I'm not here to listen to your problems of committing felonies. And if you disclose felonies that you're committing, like a therapist cannot help you with felonies. That's called a criminal attorney. Then you can have privileged whatever communications with that attorney, and that attorney needs to really advise you the right way to figure out what to do once that these people broke the law, right? But it's I really think it's that point, it's like they made us whole song and dance about how psychiatrists are so bad, but it's like, are you afraid of a psychiatrist or are you afraid of a mandated reporter? Because you also don't like the teachers are also controlled. Most kids go to these so-called Scientology schools. More mandated reporters compromised. The doctors are also compromised. Go to a doctor that Scientology will allow you to be part of. They have a medical liaison office in there to liaise. Oh, can I go to this doctor? Oh yeah, that one's good. So you have all the doctors compromised. You have all the therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists compromised. You have teachers compromised. You have law enforcement compromised. Who did these people not compromise? Because that would be a better question to ask instead of like, who's not compromised? Who is compromised that is a mandated reporter that would have been able to smell anything? And in what world in 74 years do we have nothing reporting any of this level of egregious child abuse? And there's so many examples. It's like the examples aren't lacking. We put 75-foot receipt in front of Celebrity Center, and that was the most incomplete receipt in the universe. Imagine there's over 100 names in this, an incomplete list, because the amount of kids exposed to this is exponentially bigger. And that's what makes it even more disgusting and unthinkable.
Absolutely. Wow. So, if, say, hypothetically, there was a raid on, Clearwater, in those hotels or wherever, what do you think they would find?
What would they find? What do you mean?
Right, present day, like what receipts would they find? What would they find going on? What,
They would have the
if
video
people came.
recordings. They have video recordings of everything. So there's so much information that's being video recorded. Every session is being video recorded. They have all of this in highly secure databases that have no access to the internet because they were always very scared of them having been being eavesdropped on. So there were always crisis managing ahead to not get caught. No one can see the PC files. No one can see the video recordings. No one can see where the evidence is being kept. And the evidence being kept is what they're using to tell the parents, look, everything is very normal because look, we do record it all. So it's so egregious and indefensible. So that's why all these people have a lot to answer to. And it's not just the Scientology executives, it's the Scientology parents as a collective, whether you were there or if you left the threshold of a hotel. It does not matter. If you have done nothing to stop the trafficking of minors that you were for decades supporting and being a part of, then in what world do you just leave this and then go, oh, I was a victim, I have nothing to do here? For all kids stuck in there, better luck next lifetime.
Right.
You know?
So when you were in there, when you were in the hotel, if there had been a raid back then, they would have evidence through video recordings, through all of the receipts, through the PC files, everything, that you were auditing adults and they were telling you all kinds of inappropriate things. Plus, you were twinning with someone who was a known pedophile,
Self-admitted. Yeah, it's
self-admitted.
self-admitted on himself. I mean, that's what it's called, right? It's like everyone's guilty until proven guilty. But what if somebody goes, I did this felony 2 weeks ago in this room at this time because of this and this idea that it's confidential penitent priest privilege file. That's all it took to put that on a piece of paper, Marilyn, and then everyone acted, oh, but that's very confidential info, that's very special and sacred and safe. And it's like, no, there is no safe place if you are committing felonies on kids. You cannot go to a therapist and tell them. You cannot go to a priest and incriminate yourself. Even the priest is not there pulling strings and asking questions. You can go to a priest and, talk in circles and be like, oh, priest, I did many sins. I feel
Right.
really bad about this and that. And it's like the priest is not there questioning further and record. Okay, hold on. When did you say you did it? Okay, let me write it. Again, it's like to say that a session is a religious experience is so ridiculous and false, because again, it's like that's what religions have. They have the plausible deniability. We were infiltrated by bad people, but look, our book says to do great things. That's what the religions have, right? Like, oh, no, it's because nobody was following the book. In our case, it's because everybody was following the book that they have a problem.
Can I put our friend Bianca, hi sweetheart, a Scientology rundown comment. I was an MLO. Is that
Medical
medical
liaison
liaison?
office. Yep,
Okay, yeah.
medical
Okay.
liaison office. Yep.
I'm listening. I'm listening to you guys. Medical liaison officer for a while. My job was to monitor what people said to their doctors so they didn't say anything out PR.
I mean, again,
Wow.
it's like the grooming against mandated reporters was real. And as Bianca's saying here, it was made someone's job. Her head would be put on a pike. Imagine if somebody went to a doctor and said what in the hell was really actually going
Going
on.
on. Right.
Then it was her. Why didn't you handle this, Bianca? You should have done a better job. What type of degraded person are you? Again, in what world does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just in a criminal cartel.
Yeah. Tina McBride said Matt Pesh never spoke out years ago, was always in the background. Yeah, it seems like he knew a lot more than he was letting on. And then when he did speak, those 2 video clips that Kelly put in the Mike Rinder video about the Aftermath Foundation, he was kind of almost like blowing it off and kind of giggling about it. Like, yeah, whatever. It was just awful. Like, and these are the people that were leading the movement and holding the purse strings of donations that all y'all out there gave and entrusted to them as custodians over helping survivors to get on their feet. And now they're throwing these liability forms with their basically billionaire contracts that they have to be, forever and always cooperative with them and never, I don't even remember the wordage, but it's terrible. It's never like anything I've seen in the nonprofit sector ever. It's unbelievable. So
Yeah.
I mean, I promise not to shut up about it until something happens with either there's a new foundation we can all turn our attention to, or the Aftermath Foundation needs to really get their shit together. And definitely Mike needs to step down. The two couples that remain, at the very most, they should, if they both remain, they should each get one vote each, and then bring in people from the outside, bring in people from different walks of life, people that they represent in ex-Scientology community, LGBTQ. That's a huge community that was oppressed. There needs to be representation, and Mike Rinder has to put the crap and step down. And I want to ask you a question. Do you think, I mean, in your opinion, do you think he should be in jail?
I mean, there's so many people that need to take accountability, make whatever plea deal you can put yourself on the table. That's how the law works. It's all negotiation. And the case is not going to build itself, So apparently it's not ever been enough for law enforcement to have all of us as kids scream at the top of our lungs what's going on. Apparently it's never been enough, but imagine if all the Scientology parents would turn themselves in with affidavits of time, place, form, and event of what type of egregious, unthinkable, sadistic abuse they all normalize for themselves inside of the hotels.
Right.
In what world would law enforcement not then be able to do anything? That's what we're calling out. And it's not just Mike Rinder that's needed. It's every last Scientology parent, whether you were in or out, it doesn't matter. If you're out, then write it down. Take yourself to the child crimes against children unit at the FBI and knock on their door until they open it. Stay outside, camp outside the FBI until they start doing something about it and stop playing dumb, because that's all they ever do. Play dumb and dumber. Nobody knows anything. Our job is so hard. The law is so hard to administer, and it isn't.
Right.
The law is not hard to administer, but it shouldn't be up to a 12-year-old to desperately go to another house, in the case of Ruby and Jody, which is the same thing. Multi-million-dollar mansion is where these kids were being abused. A gorgeous multi-million-dollar mansion in Utah. Jody Hildebrand was the go-to therapist for the Mormons for how many decades? She was pitched as, oh yeah, go to her to really go get fixed. And it's like, okay, so it's the same criminal racketeering scheme.
Yeah.
Play that you're a therapist. Play that you're very religious and you really do care. And then all of a sudden you will have unfeathered access to put kids in bondage and get off on abusing them. I mean, what type of psychotic, disgusting people are these that get off on that? And it's all Scientology parents. It wasn't just Mike Rinder. It wasn't just him. There was just hundreds, actually thousands of them that did this to their kids. And if their kids ever bring up oh, that's your problem, stop, I was also victimized, whatever, it's like, no, that's not what it is. So they all have to take responsibility. They all have to wake up and smell the literal coffee and start acting like adults and stop acting like infantile degenerates that you paid to be. You paid to be an infantile degenerate when you were under L. Ron Hubbard's spell. Breaking news to y'all. So you don't like it being told that way? Well, you know what? You won't stop if you don't get told the facts, because you will continue to self-infantilize, come up with all manner of short stories. Oh, no, but we really wanted to save our world. Oh, no, we really had the technology. It's just no one on the outside understands. They do understand your technology now. Lucky for all of you are getting that. Scientology is not that complicated to understand. Kids were being put in sessions, ethics handlings, and courses. All of those 3 pillars of Scientology constitute false imprisonment. All of those 3 pillars of Scientology, you cannot leave. Period. If you're in a courtroom, you cannot even go to the bathroom without asking. You cannot go anywhere if you are. So in an ethics handling, the same. You're in an ethics handling with an ethics officer, you cannot say no, you cannot say stop, you cannot say I don't like this, you cannot say I want to leave, I don't want to talk to you anymore. No. Session, the same. So in what world are minors being false in prison with the US government not giving an F? Because it is a felony that says in the books not to be able to do. And Ruby and Jody got to find out that effing around with kids, tying them up, we were tied up. Our handcuffs were called cans. We couldn't move when they gave us those cans.
Right.
We could not move anywhere. We couldn't put them down. We couldn't, nothing. You had to be on them until they told you could get off. So again, why is that allowed? Why is the Tampa Bay Times pitching that as a rocky childhood that we were having for ourselves? Because again, Marilyn, it's all the enablers. The Tampa Bay Times sat there with Mike Rinder, Marty Rathbun, Debbie Cook, Amy, whoever wanted to go pitch that they were a victim. And you know what they were? They were victimized. No one's saying that they weren't, but where's the rest of the context? And in what world is this? You're 2024 and you're nowhere to be found with that context. I mean, you could have figured it out by now. I think we've been extremely patient, waiting on the sidelines for y'all to connect a shred of dot. But you know what? Like they say in Scientology, if you don't do your job, you get bypassed. That means someone else is going to come and have to do it for you because you refuse to do it yourself. And nobody likes being bypassed. Well, you know what? All Scientology parents, all Scientology executives are being bypassed today. Maybe not 5 years ago. Maybe 5 years ago, we were still under this infantile delusion that maybe one day something will really be wonderful and magical and change. But you know what? As of today, nothing has been magical or wonderful or has changed. And all the kids that are still stuck at the hotel have no advocacy being done for them. So in what world do no kids get advocacy and kids are just, still being brought into these hotels, still being made to be signing billion-year contracts, which they cannot be signing with a straight face? In what world is that a religious volunteer with your passport locked up?
Right.
Because that's what they were doing. That was their standard operating procedure. Again, in what world did you have so many lawyers and no one told you it's not a good idea to lock up the passports? I mean, seriously, Marilyn, what type of lawyers has these people really hired for themselves is what I need to understand now. Back in the day, I bought their pitch that, oh my God, we really do have the best of the best. Well, you know what? It turns out you have the worst of the worst. Because if passports were being systemically confiscated by their client, Debbie Cook, by their client, Mike Rinder, by their client, Glenn Stylo, Kathy True, Sarah Heller, all the people that work at OSA know what they were doing.
Right. Can I just put this up? Mrs. Massey, comment. I think Mike Rinder, quote, turned in what maybe would keep him out of jail. And then again, I feel like he's also safe pointing with the FBI. What do you think about that?
I mean, if the FBI is so ridiculously incompetent and stupid that a full-blown trafficker can make them go goo goo gaga for him, then they should really renounce and stop being investigators. Investigator requires you to have a shred of critical thinking skills. If the FBI doesn't have them, then let's really start go finding people that care. Because you know what? It's like, it's not that hard to connect this and figure out this and then see evidence. I mean, the type of documents that are coming out. I mean, we just saw it on Jenna Miscavige, Mike Rinder calling her a psychotic. with his,
Yeah,
that's
that was
not,
messed up.
David Miscavige told him to do that. That's you, Mike Rinder, that typed that a child that you were trafficking, as if you weren't besties with Jenna's mom and dad. So you were all in on trafficking Jenna. And then you typed that she was a psychotic to dead agent her. When are you going to start taking responsibility for what you typed with your own two fingers? And you know what? Yes, he gave the FBI a lot of materials, but you know what? The FBI is so stupid and idiotic that the stupid code language that Mike Rinder and his little posse is using goes way above their head. So imagine that the FBI cannot crack the code of an imbecile, the rhetoric of L. Ron Hubbard. That's what all of these people were saying. None of them can claim they were the genius to come up with the system to hide it all. They owe that to their daddy figure, L. Ron Hubbard. So if they have a problem with anything that we're saying, they can take their complaints to defunct convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard. Dig him out of the grave already and ask him why he ensnared them inside of his disgusting world that he did prop up for himself and the rest of the people that were in on it.
Right. Bianca says, comment regarding the I quote, I don't know excuse. When shit happened under me, and if I said I didn't know, I was usually in worse trouble than if I had known.
Thank you, Bianca. I mean, your comments are literally, I mean, that's exactly what it was, Marilyn. Like, you don't get to tell these people that you don't know. Like, anything that happens will get blamed on you. And if you don't know, then why didn't you know? Are you so incompetent that you let this just happen? And again, it's just, in what world was that level of responsibility being put on minors and infant children that were underage? Our brains were being fried by these people putting this unthinkable expectations on us and treating us as adults. Like, that's what it's called. Like, we all have problems because our brains were fried. And it's an invisible handicap because everybody says like, oh my God, you guys got it all together. And we don't. That's the sad truth. We don't have it all together whatsoever. We put a face to discuss these things, and we're doing it with our literal nails crawling out of the grave we were dug under by all of this disgusting abuse. You know, as we discussed yesterday, it's called We Didn't Have a Childhood. Yeah. And I know that a lot of people in our community understand what that means, because again, it's like, that's what we have in common. Oh, you didn't have a childhood. You didn't have a childhood. You didn't have it. Oh, so you are handicapped. So you do get how hard it is to live with yourself, even as a full-grown adult, because you cannot ever find a switch to turn anything off or on. Like, you're not in control of anything at that point, you know? So yeah, thank you, Bianca, for that comment, because that's exactly how it was.
Thank you, Bianca. There's something a little bit along those lines. Or is it Paris Cashin? Comment. Marty Rathman and Mike Rinder need to be held accountable for what they did to try and silence Surge. Love you both. What do you think about that?
I mean, again, this is a case where accountability will go round and round. I mean, everybody needs to be held accountable. My parents need to be held accountable. My grandparents need to be held accountable. My aunts and uncles need to be held accountable. Mike Rinder and all his friends at Osa need to be held accountable. Debbie Cook and all her executives that were helping her prop up and recruit minors to the FSO need to be held accountable. I mean, there's just not enough people that, you know, that don't need to be held accountable. Everyone has to be held accountable. Otherwise, all these crimes committed against children continue to be done. And that's what's not acceptable today in the year 2024. Accountability is needed so that it sends the message that we do live in a civilized society where if you are knowingly abusing minors, bondaging them, strapping them, dead bondaging them, strapping them to cans, not letting them leave rooms, grooming them to do these disgusting courses, pretending that they can be the role of these things that they're not in any way, shape, or form capable of consenting to be a part of. All of that is disgusting and unthinkable. And, you know, the list is long. I mean, we should start making a a list for all the kids. Well, I'm going to make a separate receipt.
Yeah.
All the adults.
Yeah.
All the adults, all the parents involved. So we see how many more adults to how many children ratio we have,
Mm,
because that's the other receipt that we need.
mm-hmm. Really. So, Barbie World question. Kelly is forgiving her father slowly, Serge. Can you ever forgive yours? Is there hope for these crazy adults?
Thank you, Barbie. I mean, I think that is a very personal journey that every survivor has to take for themselves. I believe that every person on a recovery journey has to take all the things that happened to them personally. We were all
Mm-hmm.
abused differently, even though we were all abused the same. But, again, some parents may have not been as sadistic as others. And, forgiveness to me is a personal journey. Is there any hope for these crazy adults? There is hope for them to go tell the FBI what they did and
Okay.
make it stop. That would be a
Mm-hmm.
big step in the right direction. I mean, if everything that happened to us as kids was completely forbidden to happen to another child, I don't think any of us would have channels or want to talk about this ever again whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
this is disgusting. What we have to do all the time, talk about this is exhausting, but again, it's like it's not going to be done by itself. So, and keeping hoping that someone is going to bring up these points and advocate on the behalf of the kids is something that we can't just keep living to the air, because every day that goes by, the kids are being audited, sec checked, given ethics handlings, sent to do grooming, disgusting courses, made to sign billion-year contracts. All of that is unacceptable AF. If this was an adult-only problem, again, no one has the right to tell other adults what they should or not be doing with their lives. That is the whole principle of America. Yes, you're free. But you know what? The freeness also has to come with some common sense boundaries. And that's what the law is supposed to be all about. Oh, here's your common sense boundaries, you guys. Like, in case you don't have it, you will get to see a lot of repercussions if you go and exist outside of these.
Can I put up a super chat? Hey, Sarah Smith, thank you for the super chat and thank you for your comment. Mike Rinder has stage 4 cancer with only months to live. It's time to end this fact-free hate campaign against him. Allow him some peace.
Well, it would be great for you, Sarah, to provide what the facts are. Were you inside the hotel? Do you know Mike Rinder personally? Or with what kind of straight face can you really sit here telling us that we are having a hate campaign? Because it sounds like you're just an OSA operative talking about things that you have no idea about. Were you inside of that hotel? Yes or no? And if you were not, then you know what? Stop opining on things that you have no idea about. Did you have any first-hand dealing with these executives? Yes or no? Because their fan people are no one that we need to be getting any feedback from, to be honest. And the fact that he's got cancer, a lot of people have suffered a lot of things as a result of horrible things that they did. Maybe he did pull in getting cancer. That's what he was telling kids inside of the hotel. Oh, you know what? You're so disgusting that you pulled in getting cancer. You're nothing but a potential trouble source. It's your fault that you're sick, is what children were being told inside of that hotel. So I'm glad that Sarah wants to advocate for Mike Rinder's feelings. Well, Mike Rinder didn't afford that type of anything to any child that got sick inside of those hotels, because the children were told that they were potential trouble sources, that they pulled it in, that they were disgusting, that they were degraded because they were getting sick.
Okay, can I pop it up again? Because I have a couple thoughts just from some experience I've had the last week or two. Mike Rinder actually sent me a very long email 2 days ago with a huge, big, long laundry list, a dead agent packet about Aaron. I went through it line by line with Aaron. Aaron showed me receipts and pretty much defunct everything he said, proved it wrong. If somebody is really on their deathbed, why are they, number one, hanging on to 2 positions on boards, Child USA and the Aftermath Foundation, that are helping to to you know to help SA victims, child trafficking victims. Why is he holding on to those positions? Number one, why is he, going around dead agenting? If he's that sick, why is he on his high horse, saying that everybody's trying to get money off of YouTube? Why is he saying he's off of social media, but he's on his blog, just talking shit about everybody? So I don't know. That's just a question to you. What are the facts here? And I don't really see any hate here. Nobody's saying we hate him. We just want some accountability. Is that hate? You know, I see a lot of hate coming from him. We haven't called him any names. So that's all I have to
And
say about
again,
that.
Marilyn, this idea is like, yes, we're supposed to hate people that do not have the humanity to provide children a safe space. And if they made it a business, I mean, like, I hate Jeffrey
And
Epstein. I hate Ghislaine Maxwell. I hate what they did to those girls. They use their naivete and their gullibility to
yeah,
exploit them with a full-blown straight face. So, yes, we're
right.
supposed to hate people
But
that
we can't,
are
right? And we can't allow them the peace. If Mike Rinder wants peace, he needs to come clean. If Mike Rinder wants peace, he needs to go to the FBI and deal with his own demons. If Mike Rinder wants peace, he needs to answer some questions. Answer Miriam Francis's questions, whether he knew
provided
about it or
provided
not.
with the affidavit that is nowhere to be found. Like, in what
Right.
world was he the head of OSA and then just loses an affidavit because, oh my God, like, affidavits, who cares? We'll just put them all in the shredding. I mean, those are valuable documents. Mike Rinder would know what valuable documents are. Valuable
Mhm.
documents didn't get put in the shredder. Incriminating information did get put in the shredder, right, Mike Rinder? Is that why we were shredding everything so that no one could see what was being done outside of the hotel? We were literally doing huge shredding
Right.
binges with literal
Mhm.
industrial size shredding machines, you guys. Like, it's disgusting, because Scientology was very bothered that, oh my God, God forbid the enemy goes into our trash cans and starts pulling all these things that we are doing. For example, when we were doing the drills, okay, when you were doing a drill with a doll, you were supposed to keep worksheets of what you were asking the doll. So imagine if all those worksheets show the grooming, evidence of the grooming process of how they groom kids, to
Right.
then end up in a hotel room locked up with an adult doing these disgusting role plays.
Right. Ian Casilla said, Mike Render is in remission per his blog. And I say, great. I never want him to die from cancer, but he can be held accountable for his reactions in current time. If he wants peace, then come clean. Yeah.
Well, and you would think that if you were in that position, that's where you would be having a come to Jesus moment, literal
Mhm.
come to Jesus moment. It's like, okay, the end of the road's near. I really have to, what am I going to remember when I literally close my eyes for the very last time? That you abused how many kids under your watch and you played dumb the whole time, and you were L.
Right.
Ron Hubbard's publicist, and you're nowhere on the public record repudiating or having a shred of shame. Rightful shame is what you should have, Mike Rinder. Rightful shame that belongs to you, if you literally had any humanity left in you. But in as much as you purported that David is so horrible and whatever, David is still in the cult. You've been out for how many decades and you still haven't put a shred of connection of any dots for yourself, and you're not under the spell of L. Ron Hubbard? In what world are you any better than David Miscavige? At least he's got the excuse, oh my God, I'm so unhinged out of my mind because I still believe L. Ron Hubbard. But you don't have that excuse, Mike Rinder. So in what world have you not repudiated and have spent all these years campaigning that David, 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 and David, and David, and you cannot get the word David out of your literal mouth?
And I would ask, what do you want your legacy to be, Mike? Is this the last thing you want on your resume? Is this what you want your resume to be in heaven or St. Peter or whatever you go to? You know, is this how you want to be remembered? I hope not. And as soon, how do you pronounce that? Because you said it so beautifully the other day.
Aizen
Her name,
K.
Asen.
I
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if
I
it's a
Yeah, I don't either.
Aizen,
Comment.
Aizen.
Yeah. Even people with cancer in past 90 years are dragged to court in Germany for what they did in Nazi Germany. No excuses. Yeah. I mean, they do have compassionate release and things like that, but that's after they're already convicted, and people
And the
admit he hasn't
accountability
admitted
again, you
anything.
guys.
Right.
The
Yep.
accountability is so that this does not continue to occur. Like, we're not going to
Right.
get anything out of, like, Jody and Ruby are in prison for 60 years. What does that do to her children? Nothing. Believe you me, we get nothing. And that's the problem with this type of crime. There is no place where you can get anything back. There is no place where nothing. What was done is irreplaceable. What was taken from us is irreplaceable. And we're now left to deal with the consequences of their criminal act. For us to cope with their decision to inflict that crime on us. So, as much as even, they want to be like, oh, you're just out for blood, whatever. We are out so that no kids get exposed to
Right.
this disgusting scheme. It's very, very
Mhm.
simple, the ask that we have. If kids are still being dragged into there, and we have it from Chicago, we've seen kids going into LA org. I mean, kids are always been part of this
Austin
disgusting
too.
hotel.
Yep.
It's never been a place where it's like, oh my God, we all really had a big cognition, which they're supposed to be having a lot of those in Scientology, cognitions, things that they realize. Well, realize that you can't touch a child. Realize that you cannot expose them to disgusting things that you are into doing as an adult. Realize that adults and kids are not the same thing. And then write a success story of how you will now go to the FBI and actually come clean for the very first time in their life. They know how to come clean, Marilyn. L. Ron Hubbard taught them. It was called
Yeah.
time, place, form, and event. It's a literal affidavit, what's needed, of every last crime they committed. In Scientology, they called it OW write-up. Over here, it's called affidavit. Time, place, form, and event of all the crimes that were committed. And then go to your criminal attorney and have them cut a deal for you. That is accountability,
Yeah.
so that no other kids get exposed to the
Yeah.
scourge of
Save
what gets
kids.
done to them.
Yes. I love this comment. CJ, bless your heart. Bless your heart, CJ. As a never in, I like this comment too. So bless their heart. As a never in, I'm glad to see the people who were forced into Scientology as children speaking out and refusing to stop. If anyone else was abusing traffic this way, they would be prosecuted. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's
Well, and then look
exactly
how
what's being
long it's
said.
taken us for even us to even find our voices, you guys. And it's like, it's the wake up that we all had to do. It's the reckoning, as I've spoken to so many of my friends. It's that reckoning that is the most difficult aspect of your life. You go through your entire childhood disassociated and believing it's all your fault and there's a reason for it and whatnot. But in the aftermath of that, when you realize it was all a sick joke at your expense, and now you have no childhood, and now you have your parents having been, waking up to how unhinged and criminal they were, then it's very, very hard to recover from that truth. It's literally makes you go nuts, because you go, it cannot be, that everything was a lie. Like, the
Right.
level of fraud, the level of betrayal, blindness comes off, and once that wears off, you have nothing anymore to quell that pain, right? Because before, it was all wrapped up in all these bows. Oh, it was a religious
Right.
experience. Oh, we were actually going to save the world. Oh, all this sacrifice was for something, and our sacrifice was at the expense of our literal mental health. And there gets a point into your midlife that you cannot play dumb with yourself anymore. And you're like, okay, these are the facts, whether you like them or not. This is what it was. Now deal with it. Your brain just dumps it on you one day when you cut up all these connections to all these sick people and you're no longer being trauma bonded with them to that degree. So then that's when you start opening your eyes. And it's like, oh, it's like stranger danger. These were not stranger danger people. These were people that were groomed to us. These were people that were told by our parents were the most ethical people on the planet. We had no way to repudiate that pitch when it was being given to us with a straight face by our parents back in the day.
We got a super chat. Thank you, Jennifer Strickland. If you prosecute, if maybe she means if you sue, because I don't think people can't prosecute. It has to be prosecute. It has to be a law enforcement, I don't know, a DA, FBI, whatever, attorney general, whatever. Yeah. If you prosecute, you could have Rinder subpoenaed and asked what he told the FBI. Also, pick at the FBI building. Rinder says he reported child SA and you've done nothing. They look into it then? You think so?
Jennifer, 100% that the FBI should be also protested. Again, it takes a bunch of enablers for this to be the case. If it wasn't state sanctioned, it wouldn't be happening. Because again, the FBI has plenty of powers to make things stop when they want to make them stop. Mm-hmm. And they also have plenty of powers to not make it stop when they don't want to make it stop. So, mm-hmm. I don't think I need to subpoena to understand what Mike Rinder has said or not. Again, he's not even been a part of my case, but he was to Miriam what Debbie Cook was for me. Mike Rinder went and nabbed Miriam's mom to build a museum. That's why Miriam has no childhood, because of Mike Rinder. Mike Rinder went and grabbed his mom and told her it would be a great idea to pitch L. Ron Hubbard as a great humanitarian here in Hollywood so that the LAPD can really be told that we are just a bunch of incredible people doing humanitarian things. And then all of a sudden, Miriam and her two underage brothers had no home and were literally trafficked by their mother, the same one that wrote that affidavit containing lies that would be great to understand those lies, how they start not matching in the receipt of what is known about her father. Because again, Miriam's mom was told, you guys, that's how it worked inside of the hotel. Everybody got told this person did an out-to-D, that person did an out-to-D. They purported that the more they told on people, it was going to really stop people from wanting to do it. But it's just again, it's just an infantile game. It has nothing to do with reality. It's all just a delusion.
Mad Marcia said he could make his kids proud by being the catalyst to finally end the abuse. I like that. Yeah.
And provide the courage, because courage is contagious. Many other parents can join him. Again, he's not alone. I wish this was a Mike Rinder only problem. I wish only he had made the wrong choice. We're talking about an astronomical, exponentially bigger size pool of all those parents who outsource all their adult decisions to people that did 2-week courses inside of a hotel. That's what the reality is. You can call it a religion. You can call it a whatever the hell you want. It all ended up with you outsourcing your adult decisions. So now go check with a mirror if that was a good idea to really do have that outsourced to someone else. Because guess who's going to have to pay the price for that outsourcing? You that did the crimes. Not someone else, not someone else over there, not even the FBI. The FBI could be negligent and reckless AF, but, we never saw an FBI agent going into the hotel, bringing kids to the hotel. The FBI agents weren't allowed in the hotel. We had a whole questionnaire in case that, you had anyone in your family being part of the FBI, then you wouldn't qualify to save a world. So They kept a lot of distance between any law enforcement agency and themselves. And they were always crisis managing for that. And we didn't understand what in the hell, but now it makes sense. Like, and we're not talking just FBI, NSA, CIA, anything that had to do with anything like that, law enforcement, DOJ, anything that had to do with that type of level of law enforcement agency. And all of a sudden, you cannot save the world anymore if you have anyone in your family, even distant family, working in those ranks was considered highly illegal. Imagine you were called an illegal PC if you had those connections.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't understand it back then, but today it makes sense that they were thinking that the FBI agents would be illegal to have inside the hotel.
Right. Yeah. DGG, raising public awareness precedes law enforcement intervention in social movements. Yeah, and that's what you're
100%
doing.
DG. I mean, that's the
Thank
only
you.
power we have. So,
Yep. And we'll just keep going and keep raising awareness. Keep on message, right? Keep the momentum going. There's all kinds of things happening. We've got, the Squirrel Squad and all the gems out there. You're out there almost every night, and you're not going to stop. We're just going to keep all over America. There's Chicago happening now. We got, Austin, everywhere. Where else? Portland, New York City, just keep it going. Yes. And thank you so much. And yeah, I think we've pretty much established that people need to start taking accountability. What a
yeah.
great inaccurate phrase. Outsourcing your adult decisions. Yeah, I was about to write that down. Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, I did that in the cult I was in, and I have to take responsibility for my children. And speaking of, I just want to pop this up. This is my daughter, Haley. The only way she can get a hold of me right now. Mom, we're going to dinner soon. So I guess we should wrap it up. You've been trying to get
Yeah.
a hold of me. Do you want to go to dinner after you're live? So,
You
yeah.
deserve to eat.
That's okay. And I just
Yeah.
want to say thank you, Jill Davison, for becoming one of my little bear cubs. I've got memberships. Yeah. So thank you so much, Serge. This has been amazing. And anytime I would love to talk to you for so many things I would love to dive into. What you were saying, the three facets or basic uh I don't know how you put it, but of Scientology is auditing, was it sec checking? And what was the other
Auditing,
one?
ethics, and courses.
Ethics, of
It's
course.
auditing and sec checking are basically the same thing. So
Oh,
auditing
okay. What's
courses that
what's the
groom you
difference
to become
between
an auditor.
ethics is like okay, so ethics is like punishment, like
Ethics
handling?
is when you're, yeah, to get you back on the rails. You know, when you've gone off the rails, they call it, they bring you
Mhm.
back to the rails. So auditing doesn't deal with your ethics, but I mean, yeah, we can get into like the weeds of that, definitely.
Well, yeah, I just think it's important to know like the the mindset. I think it's good. Like for me, it's helped a lot to talk about some of these things because it's helped me to understand not only my friends, because you all are my friends, but also it's helped me to heal too. Because, like you said, what is it? Same shit, different air freshener. That's what I've been finding. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but thank you so much, and I will see you later.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's a big fundraiser going on at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, and yeah, we'll all just get together and hopefully raise some funds for Miriam. We're raising money so that she can have her treatment, and yeah, I'm excited about that. So we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye. We'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Bye, bye, everybody. Thank you.